What is happening, you guys? Welcome back to Let's Go Win podcast. You're here for a Tuesday tune-up, and we are here with a very special guest. This is going to be a really important one, so tune in because we are going to be talking about mental wellness. And I don't know if there's ever been a more important time than the present to really be discussing this topic. And I'm really excited to have Dr. Adam Downs, who is a mental health therapist, an entrepreneur, and speaker. He utilizes his education, training, and personal experience with mental health and addiction struggles to help people develop a mental wellness mindset in order to maximize their potential in life. Welcome to the show, brother. And I guess I'll start with, it's pretty fascinating the depth of, it's way more than surface level, right? And I think when we talk about mental wellness, again, as we talked off air about fish, and I was talking about how I didn't know so much about the community with Grateful Dead. Again, when I think of doctor, it's not necessarily bearded and inked and fish and cool guy. Yet, those are all just biases or, thoughts of the way it's supposed to look. And that's just so not true. And I say that all to set this up to say, I love what you're talking about. Mental wellness is such an important topic. And yeah, man, I'm so grateful to have you here to talk about it.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity. It's something that is so important. And you're right, now more than ever, with what we're seeing, our community, the men, the women, the children, in our community and in our country, are things that people are going through. And it's something that's near and dear to my heart from my own personal experience as well. So yeah, I love talking about it and trying to just get people to think about it.
I mean, obviously, coming through the pandemic, I don't think it helped in regards to mental
Mm,
wealth and mental health and mental wellness. And I think that's, we're seeing, unfortunately, the repercussions of being locked down for as long as we did. Now, I think the positive is that it's brought to light, hey, we need to talk about this. There shouldn't be a negative stigma. If I broke an arm, I go see a doctor and there's no judgment on that.
right.
There's something, brother, and I really want to figure this out with you. Why is it a negative stigma that, look, my brain's broken? I'm using air quotes,
Yeah,
it's not working properly. It's not functioning the way whatever normal's supposed to look like, but there's no judgment. Go get it looked at. Go get it fixed. Let's get some help. But there's a
absolutely.
negative stigma, brother. Why is that?
I mean, I think it goes back to, almost the beginning of time, right? I mean, for so long, mental illness was just treated as moral shortcomings, as people would have schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder and would have delusions and auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations, and they were just, oh, they're possessed, like they're satanic, and so when that becomes the foundation, right? That mental, I mean, like look at that, the Salem witch trials. Now, I'm pretty sure that these were not witches, possessed witches. These were probably women that were struggling with some kind of mental health disorder, and then they got burned alive for it. I mean, I know this is kind of drastic, but I mean, if you look back and say that's where we sort of started with the projections we put on mental health, and then the other thing too is mental health. It's so illogical, like the way it presents itself. Like a lot of times the behaviors, with people that are struggling with depression, anxiety. You just want to be like, just get up, like quit laying in bed all day. Of course you feel like crap. Like get up, go do something, get a job. Work harder. Um, and it's just not that simple, but it presents in a way that's very easy to judge and hard to understand, and can appear to be lack of effort or lack of care, or and it just doesn't make any sense. And as a whole, when things don't make sense to people, they want to just kind of judge it and put it in a box. Whereas like a broken arm, right? You can pull up an x-ray and be like, oh crap, that's broken. You can't do that with mental health. You can't just like draw some blood, put it in a mass spectrometer and be like, oh, okay, well, we have anxiety and depression, and it's much more complicated.
Yeah, even as you're talking, you're right, because there's a tangible, I can see the arm is, bandaged, or it's wobbly or something.
Yeah, right.
Whereas the head, it's obviously the most complex thing in the universe that we still have about this much
This
knowledge of,
exactly.
right?
We understand about this much of it.
Yeah. And I guess, Adam, I want to talk to you. You said your personal experience. I'm really curious your journey into this world of mental wellness and being a mental health therapist. What did draw you that way, brother? Why is that such a passion for you personally?
Yeah, well, I tell people all the time, I didn't choose this; it chose me. And really, because I think that if I didn't do this for a living, um, I would feel like the biggest thief in the world, because so much was given to me, to pull me out of my darkest days, um, that I now have been able to, from an accumulation of life experience and then on to get trained and degrees and research and publications and all the things. I now feel like I have a pretty sharpened skill set, that if I can help somebody avoid some of those places that I went to, um, I mean, that's what keeps me going. That's what lets me lay my head down at night.
Let me ask you, getting back to the point of, hey man, just get up and get moving. Like, stop being depressed. That whole, because
Yeah,
from a sane mind, or from a like logical mind, that makes sense. Um,
absolutely.
but obviously it's way more than that. And those that have not experienced, which I'll put myself in that corner. I don't really understand anxiety. I think I've felt it once in my life, right? That I
Sure.
really felt, but it runs in my family, this, mental health challenges, as it does in, I'm going to say, most families, right?
Yeah, it's hard to find somebody who's like doesn't have somebody they love that struggled with some kind of mental health concern.
Yeah. And so I guess my question is, how do we apply grace and understanding and empathy when what you really want to do is shake them and be like, come on, man, stop it, just get it together?
Yeah,
How can we best support as family members, because it's
yeah,
challenging, man? You love these people, you want the best for them, and yet they're not functioning at their highest level. They're in, like you said, their darkest moments, and yet you want to show love, you want to be empathetic, and you want the best for them. Do you have a recipe for success for those of us trying to support?
yeah. I think the biggest thing is stop trying to understand it. And the reason I say that is, if you've got someone you love that's um, going through cancer, you don't have to have experienced cancer personally to be able to find empathy for that person. Like, no one ever looks at their loved one that's dying of cancer or fighting, battling cancer, and gets frustrated with them, because they're not getting out of bed. Like, they're like, oh, hey, they're battling. You can find, even though you have no idea what it feels like, right? Like, I have no idea what it feels like to go through chemo. It looks horrible, but I don't know what it's like to have your belly burning on the inside. But I can still find that compassion and that empathy. You don't, but the thing is, we try to understand mental health concerns, and then when we can't, we get frustrated and then want to like then sort of lose our patience. And so don't try to understand it. Like, realize that you like, because it's completely illogical. 1 + 1 = 75. Like, what? You can explain that to me 800 times, I'm never going to get it. The anxiety, depression, a lot of this stuff is the exact same way. Like, I'm just not going to get it, but we don't have to get it or feel it to have empathy and support. But at the same time, because there is some truth, right? Like, there's some truth to, like, hey, get up, move your body, get out of bed. Like, yes, that's actually true. As a therapist, I will talk to a person that's suffering from depression and say, okay, we got to get up. We got to put one foot in front of the other. But it's the motivation behind how I say it as a therapist. I'm also like an independent third party. I'm not like a loved one, and there's no judgment. And I'm not, because a lot of times if a loved one's like, just get up and do something, all they hear is, you're a piece of crap and all you do is lay there. But if I, as the therapist, say, hey, we got to get up and move our body 3 times a week, one foot in front of it. Even if the day one, you make it to the front door and back. Day two, we make it to the sidewalk and back. Day three, we're going to make it to the end of the driveway and back. And that's it. But they can hear that from me because they know the point in which I'm coming from. So that's a very long-winded answer to your question, but it's okay not to get it. You can still have empathy and compassion even though you don't get it, because that's true with any other ailment.
No, I mean, that actually, brother, I think that helps. I hope that helps a lot. It helps me, right? I know that, right? Like,
Yeah.
it sounds terrible, but I say you can't apply logic to crazy. And I know it's even wrong to say crazy, but at
No,
points I've
it's
said that, right?
absolutely.
One of the things you were just discussing was, this is a tip, right? Like to move the body, get outside. And that's one thing I do want to focus on, because look, we could spend hours about how awful mental health, if we see it, right? You see it in the homeless population. It runs
Mm,
rampant, unfortunately, in that population.
yes.
And that's a part of why they've arrived at some, not to
Yeah,
simplify the whole thing.
absolutely. But it's a big
Um,
issue. Big issue.
yeah.
No.
But I do want to get some strategies and techniques that, if I'm listening to this, I'm like, look, I want positive mental health. I want my kids to have positive mental health. I want my family members. What are some of those things that you wish everybody knew to just be doing for themselves?
Yeah. Okay. So I think the first thing, and I love the fact that you brought this up, because I do a talk on the differentiation between mental health and mental wellness. And mental wellness is preventative medicine, right? It's just like, we all, we see our doctor for our wellness checkup, like our wellness visit, and that's where they check your blood pressure, check your vitals, your weight, are you exercising? Like, there's things that we do. Like, I go for walks and take my dog on walks, right? And then now my wife and my daughter do these walks, just the two of them together, every night after school. And those are physical wellness activity. I don't go on a walk because I have a physical condition, like a health problem, right? I go on a walk, I eat certain foods because I'm trying to stay in front of the health problem. I'm trying to prevent the health problem from coming. So, what I tell everybody is, we've got to move away, because as soon as we say mental health issue, people are like, I don't have a mental health issue. Like, I'm totally fine. So does that mean I don't have to do anything? Like, no. Like, you need the preventative medicine just like you do for your physical health. So the things that can be so big is, one is exercise. Move your body, get outside, breathe fresh air. That's good for you mentally and physically. And it's like equally as good for you mentally and physically. Um, the other thing is, have an outlet. Like, whatever it is, have an outlet where you can unplug and plug into something else that's just fun, that just brings you stress relief. It can be bird watching, it can be snowboarding. I mean, it doesn't matter what it actually is. For me, it's like, it's travel, It's going and seeing music. It's hanging out with friends. Like, also have a big hot. I'm a backyard barbecue fanatic, right? So I get all crazy into it. But it's about, but all of those things have nothing to do with my day job, right? It's nothing to do with like how I grind and what I do to make a living to support my family. It's got everything to do with just like, hey, this is me time, right? So being able to unplug and having that me time is crucial. The other thing that's really important is have a mental wellness and accountability partner. Like, have somebody who can hold you accountable, because people know that we're struggling before we do. My wife can tell me, like, hey, you're off. Have you been, oh, you haven't, gone on a walk. Like, I got one of the things that during COVID, like, my wife really sat me down and was like, okay, what this has really shown me is how important, like, our travel, like our vacations, the ones that just my wife and I do together without the kids, like how important those things are to us. Because like we both got a little loopy during COVID when we were unable to travel like that. Now we were able to, like, we have like a lake house in Tennessee. We were able to take the kids to the lake and do some stuff like that. But just like quality time with my accountability partner, like we didn't have any of it for like what, 2 years? And it really, really weighed heavy. So if you can have an accountability partner that you give permission to hold you accountable, right? Like, hey, if I seem off, if I seem short tempered, quick to anger, or if I seem checked out, anxious, I need you to, like, if you're noticing behavioral changes in me, or even like perspective changes, like one of the first ones to go is all of a sudden just you can start getting negative about everything. And all you do is start pointing out the negative in things, like, oh, this hamburger's cold, or oh, look at this person, they won't, sitting at the red light too long. I mean, all you do is see negative. That's a big sign that things are starting to trend the wrong way. Get outside, move your body, breathe fresh air, have an accountability partner, and have me time. Unplug and plug into something else. Those are the three biggest things you can do.
Yeah, I love that, man. And it's funny. I don't know that I at the time set it up properly, but that word permission, it's so important because my wife is mine. My kids are, because I've given them permission. So when they inevitably call me out and I get defensive, like,
Yeah.
fuck you, man, that's not
Yeah.
me. No, actually it is.
Yeah.
And thank you. And
Yeah.
that's the hard part about being that accountability partner, because no one wants to hear when they suck. But the truth is,
Exactly.
you need to, man. It's like, look, so that permission piece, I
Absolutely.
hope people really hear that. Like, grant them the permission and understand when they give you that feedback, that's coming from love and not a
Yeah.
judgment.
And grant the permission and mean it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which means you have to be open to hearing it. When they call you on your shit, like, you got to be open to hear it. It's okay to be defensive at first, but you got to come around.
Yeah, it is fascinating. And that takes practice, by the way, for those of you that are
Oh,
listening. And if you don't know what we're talking about, trust me, when you grant this permission, first couple times you hear it, you're probably already hearing it. You just didn't give permission. and
well,
that's why defense happens.
well, then you bring up such a great, I really like that you kind of highlighted that part, because if you haven't granted the permission and you have an accountability partner, like a marriage or something like that, like, you are hearing it. But the thing is, you're probably not hearing it. It probably is coming across like critique or nitpicking or something in a negative light. But as soon as you grant that permission, like, you flip a switch, and all of a sudden you're able to, like, to hear it in a different way, because it's not a critique, it's an awareness.
Yeah, 100%. So, brother, I just want to highlight what you said. The three main things are: get outside and move, find an outlet that's not related to your day job, and ultimately find that accountability partner that you can grant permission to. Dr. Adam, I could talk seriously forever on this, because I think so many of us have been affected, whether we want to admit it or not. This is a reality. This is a fact of life that mental health issues really have not invaded, but it's certainly been an influence on all of our relationships. So I appreciate you so much. If people wanted to know more about what you're doing, Dr. Adam, or how to connect with you online, what's the best place, brother?
Yeah. So like Instagram, I'm on Instagram. You can follow me. It's Adam B Downs, PhD. Or my company is called What Good Looks Like. You can go to whatgoodlookslikellc.com. Or if anybody just wants to email me directly, it's Adam at MW Mindset, mental wellness mindset.com. So any of those ways. And just remember, like, mental health, I'll leave it at this, like mental health, like, you don't have to be depressed. Like I did a talk a couple months ago and I said, who here has mental health issues? And like a couple people, there's 500 people in the audience, like a couple people. I said, who here's been stressed out? And like, everybody. And I was like, that's a mental wellness issue. Like stress can lead to the same lack of productivity. It can lead to the same devastating consequences as clinical depression. But we're okay with saying we're stressed. And the other thing is, if we'll always reach, and we'll reach out if something's not going right in our business, if something's not going right with our bodies, like we'll pay the money. We'll get a coach. We'll get a specialist to come in to get it hit on all cylinders. But if something's not going right between the ears, we don't ever tell anybody about it.
Yeah, I hope your work continues to change that, brother. It's like I said, I'm passionate about this subject. I'm so glad that we connected, and you guys go check Dr. Adams out. I think Dr. Adams, excuse me, out. Yeah. I think amazing work that you're doing, and just man, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, I appreciate the opportunity.
Look, you guys, every one of us has this in our world, whether you want to admit it or not. And instead of burying your head in the sand, there's some real tools and techniques and professionals out there that know how to deal with this. And Dr. Adam happens to be one of those. So please reach out, share this, get it out to anyone that you know that has been affected or is currently struggling, because look, there are solutions, and I really want people to understand that. So share this, please. And until next time, remember, your mindset matters. Your mental wellness matters. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to letsgowinpodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.